Hi, my name is Olga, and tomorrow it's going to be exactly 1 year since my mother passed away. She would have been 66 this year. And this video was made directly in response to a request to talk about what kind of things are helpful to a person who is passing through the process of grieving. And before I mention the couple of things that did come to my mind, I wanted to say that to me, grief in general is something like being sucked into a tornado or being hit by a truck. It's just you are in a whirlwind of different types of emotions, and the three emotions that for me are very strong. The one is the guilt. The guilt can be for the things you haven't done while the person was with you. For example, you feel that you did not tell them enough that you love them, or you did not help them enough, you didn't take care of them enough. The other, or it could be guilt for, in my case, for doubting myself, for not suggesting a different treatment. My mother passed away from cancer, so there was a choice regarding which treatment to follow, and the guilt for not pushing your loved one in the right direction that now in hindsight you know was maybe a better direction, which of course you'd never really know. So that type of guilt as well. The second big one is for some people, again, maybe not for everybody, is just feeling terrible for the suffering that your loved one has gone through during the time before passing. Whatever suffering that may have been, however long, that is a terrible emotion that just overwhelms you and just comes at you in the moment when you never expected. You might be just falling asleep, and boom, it comes, and again, you just feel like you want to rip your skin off, because watching your loved one suffer is very painful. And the last emotion I wanted to talk about was just the feeling like you cannot go on without them. You miss the person. And this feeling, when I thought more about it, is really all about yourself. It's purely selfish. It's just, you want to touch that person, you want to see them. It's about you missing them. And so the things that could be helpful in dealing, at least in my experience, with these emotions, the obvious one is pure kindness on behalf of the doctors, the nurses, anybody, any professional that came into our lives. And that could mean just something small like spending extra couple of minutes with the person who is going through a grieving process. If you are on the phone, not hanging up right away and just being there for extra 10 seconds, 15 seconds. As well as if you are talking to the person, just acknowledging their grief and expressing sympathy with your voice, possibly give them a hug. Just don't rush them, give them that. They will rush themselves, because most people will realize that they cannot just cry on your shoulder entire day, but giving them that extra little time out of your busy schedule and just being there with them, not necessarily saying a whole lot, just giving your time and your sympathy. The helpful thing when it comes to feelings of guilt, it's very difficult, because what can you really say? What can you really do to help a person who feels guilty for letting down their loved one in some way. But something like mentioning that, you have done your best, or you could not have known that things will turn out like this, or I am sure that your loved one knew that you loved them, even though maybe you feel like you didn't show it enough. Things like that, that just might remind the grieving person that their loved one did know that they were loved. And again, reminding that you couldn't know the outcome, and that you did your best at the moment. And that is really all you can say, in my experience. And the last emotion that I mentioned, which is simply missing your loved one, what I found in my experience is that that pain does not really get less, it does not go away, but you could get distracted from it. And whenever you get distracted from it, it does help you to just basically manage and keep going. One thing that helps me is I have a 2-year-old son who's definitely a distraction, and he makes me smile a lot. But he is also a lot of responsibility and a lot of work. And so a child, taking care of a child, even being around a child or children, is something that is very powerful, because they tend to bring a lot of joy and a lot of responsibility with them. And it helps, as far as a professional, how you could arrange for the grieving person to be in company of children. You may not be able to arrange that, but suggest maybe, do you have family or friends with small children? And I don't know really how you would word that, to be honest, but it does help being around children. Another thing is setting goals that you will need to accomplish in order to go on with your life. And these could be financial goals, these could be social goals, personal goals, personal growth goals. These things, for example, thinking about going back to school, or getting a different job, or thinking about possibly starting a business in order to make it financially after the passing of your loved one, if your life was affected in this way, in a financial way. Also, if you have a child, thinking about taking better care of their needs in the future. Again, making goals for maybe a school that they would have to go to, or anything that has to do with planning your life, or somebody else's life for that matter. All these things take you out of your own experience of grief, and they push you into thinking about something else, and very real something else. I think something that I noticed is that sometimes music helps me. However, it could be a double-edged sword, because if music is more slow and sad, it could actually make it worse. But happy music can affect you in a very positive way. Again, how you can bring it into your professional practice, I am not sure, but maybe suggesting something again, and maybe you can discuss this with your professor, and see what you can come up with. I apologize if this is not helpful, but in my experience, these things have helped me personally. Thank you for your time.